Welcome back, and I hope you all had as good a dinner as I had tonight.
Well, let me guess, a cheeseburger around the corner?
Maybe.
I thought so. Well, hopefully we can get some better ideas about eating well from our next guest, Rose Reisman. So nice to have you here, Rose. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
Rose is probably one of the best known faces in Toronto. She's constantly in demand in the media, and no surprise. She's an authority on eating and living well. She's a nutritionist, a restaurant consultant, caterer, and author of 19 recipe books, including her latest, in hardcover no less, The Best of Rose Reisman.
Rose is clearly a busy woman, but even with a full and rewarding career, she raised 4 children, now young adults, and she has recently opened her first restaurant called Glow in the Shops at Don Mills. So, Rose, most people would think that to look as good as you do, you eat nothing but bean sprouts and carrots.
You know what?
Is that the case?
Not at all. I think I would die if I had to eat like that all the time. The key really is understanding food and eating everything on the scale, but eating it in moderation. And people don't always want to hear that, but as you start eating better, there's a domino effect. So I slowly weaned myself off fattier foods, because as a kid I was an overweight child, had overweight parents, and really my family, a lot of my members died in their 50s from chronic disease, diabetes, heart and stroke disease, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. So my warning signs came in my 30s. And I used to eat a lot more than I do today, and I started educating myself to what are the foods that causes hardening of the arteries? What are the foods that can lead to diabetes? And once you start eating a certain way, it's a domino effect. You just can't go back to the way you ate before. And the thing is, that's why diets don't work. People go on a diet and you go off a diet, right?
Right.
Rose, before we get right into talking about food and lifestyle, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into this business and how long it's taken you to build this really nice little niche that you've created for yourself.
I mean, everything's always, they say, an uphill battle. You never get success right away, but it really came from my family and watching how I lost my dad when I was 16. He died of a massive coronary. Grandmother at 52 from diabetes. My father's sister, aunt, died in her 50s from stroke. And then I realized we were Eastern Europeans. We ate meat and fat and more meat and some potatoes. And in my home, you just didn't see fresh fruits and vegetables. It was just not, that wasn't substantial. So I ate like that. I was a overweight child, and then I got into my 20s and I started saying, hey, I got to look a little better, and I started losing weight and exercising, and I thought I could eat whatever I wanted, because if you're slim and you exercise, you just think that's fine, but you can't judge a book by its cover. In my early 30s, I discovered extremely high cholesterol. I had my 3rd child by then, and it was like opening a closet on me. I'd written a book on high-fat desserts, and it was great. There was a cup of chocolate and sour cream and a dozen eggs and everything, and I loved it. And I thought, as long as I kept running, I could run it off. It was like, Forrest Gump, keep running. I kept running, but I couldn't lower that cholesterol. And it showed that it was what I was putting into my body. And you really have to treat your body well. It is like a temple.
But it's interesting that, you're a registered nutritional consultant, but you've really focused on a philosophy of living and eating well, as opposed to dieting yourself like crazy and not just eating the right foods, which is very refreshing. I mean, you would actually say that we can eat sweets and and fats as long as we're responsible.
And Jim, and responsible meaning, let's say at Glow, at the restaurant Glow or the Pickle Barrel where I have my menus, we have desserts. At Glow we have shot glass desserts. They're all of about 2 ounces. They're about 140 calories. There's real chocolate in there, so I don't give you synthetic. I don't use sugar sweeteners. I don't believe in that. But you've got to train yourself that, we're all born with fat, salt, and sugar addiction. Maybe not we're born with it, but about a week later we start enjoying all those foods from our mother. And what I learned is that those addictions can carry on in life, and you really have to say to yourself, it's a mental thing that you must do every day. You've got to talk to yourself, self-talk. The only way for successful, healthy living and looking good and feeling good is to every day say, I want some chocolate, I'm going to have some chocolate.
But you control the amount.
I have to control. The minute if I don't let you, Jim, eat something, I say, Jim, you can never, ever, ever again touch that.
Then I'm going to crave it.
You're going to go crazy, right? You're going to inhale everything around you. So you have to be able to say, you've got to eat often during the day. You got to stick to leaner proteins. You've got to have a little dessert, the foods you love, but you have to keep self-talk. And people say to me, Rose, that's another job in my life. I go, it is, but it's really worth the fight. It's really worth the battle of doing it because you feel better, you are less prone to those chronic diseases that my family suffered, and I think you look better as you get older. If you're healthy and you're fit, you have better skin and better tone.
Sure.
Well, a lot of younger people, of course, make those mistakes and eat poorly, as you did
Right.
yourself, as
Yeah.
I'm sure we did.
Right.
But as you age, what are the common mistakes that we make as we age when it comes to foods that we choose and the quantities and types?
I think we get very used to eating the way we did, and maybe you maintained a certain weight in your 30s and your 40s, and all of a sudden in your 50s you hear people say, oh, my tummy's bigger, I just, you know, I'm gaining more weight, my clothes don't fit the same. And you've gone through so many years of eating a certain way, it's very hard to change. So I think first go speak to a nutritionist. Go to somebody and get some help. Don't start buying those diet books, and find out what you are eating. And you have to really look in the mirror and examine what you're doing. Are you eating breakfast? What are you having? Are you having just a bagel and cream cheese? That's 0 nutrients. But are you having maybe a whole grain English muffin with a little bit of cheese on it, maybe a piece of fruit? So you have to start eating from the Canada's Food Guide. You've got to start combining the food groups at every meal, and you got to snack. So I really believe every 2 to 3 hours, and people say, how can I do that, Rose? You know, in my car, it looks like a junk car at times. I've got food, I've got everything there, but if I know I'm going to be out for 4 to 6 hours, you got to prepare yourself. It's like preparing for your interview today.
Mm-hmm.
Rose, when we boomers were kids, we didn't have anywhere near the amount of information about foods
Right.
or cholesterol and,
Right.
and the damage that food can do.
Right.
But I find it almost ironic that this generation does know so much more,
Yeah.
and yet there are so many more options available to younger
Right.
people today in the fast food area.
Right.
And my gosh, particularly in the United States, but also in this country, so many kids are so darn fat.
Yeah, yeah.
Obesity is an issue.
Does it
Yeah.
worry you that this generation behind us and their dietary habits?
Oh, it's killing me. I was on with Deb Matthews, the Obesity Task Force, and we were trying to understand, you know, what's happening to our kids today. Part of it is lifestyle. Mums and dads are working a lot. Do you know how hard it is? I know to walk in the door raising 4 kids at 7 o'clock and start chopping celery and carrots. It's very difficult. Our stores, our fast food restaurants have made it so easy. Just come in, buy something for $5.95. Don't worry about all the preservatives, chemicals, and hydrogenated fat in it, and feed it to your kids, and they're happy. So part of it are our stores, our restaurants, and the fact that the restaurants won't post nutritionals. So, you know, I wrote a book, Choose It and Lose It, where I would teach you to go into McDonald's and order the Big Mac over their Angus burger, and I'd explain why. We need to be educating our kids so that you really want a burger, sure, but this is a burger you got to look at why. It's less calorie, less sodium. So we need an education there first.
Yeah.
And then we have to bring people back into the kitchen, and we have to start cooking. And I don't mean like, you know, entrees that take you 3 hours. I'm talking about get a piece of chicken, put a little hoisin sauce on it, roast up some asparagus, something simple, and make eating out a treat, not a natural occurrence daily.
Right. So
It's tough.
I want to ask you a little bit about your book, The Best of Rose Reisman.
Yeah.
Is this 20 years of experience and 19 other books all wrapped up in one? How is it
It's a little bit of
constructed?
everything. I think that when I look at the first light book I wrote in 1993, it was good. It was Rose Reisman Brings Home Light Cooking. We sold a ton of books, but it wasn't good because I didn't know enough and there weren't enough great products out there that you could buy. Today you can. So this is a combination of about 70% of recipes that I took from 1993 and said, nah, out the window, I got to up the ante here. Made them better, and 30% new, and really representing Toronto and Canada really as a culture of so many different ethnic varieties. So Korean, Mexican, Asian, everything you can find in this book with a twist. But you can go into your Metro, your Loblaws, and buy all the ingredients
Well,
there.
what I also noticed in the book, and I was delighted to see, you've got a section on meat, you've got a section on
Absolutely.
burgers, you've got a section on all the
Sandwiches.
food that I'm
Burgers,
allowed to
Jim.
eat.
You got it, because there's nothing that you can't eat. But I'm going to teach you, as opposed to putting a lot of butter on the sandwich, I'll put pesto on it. I'll put light mayo horseradish on it. I'll put some sriracha on it. I'll do something interesting that's not all the calories and fat.
Sure.
Just do it better.
So we've heard that you need to start your day with a strong breakfast, a good breakfast, and then a solid lunch and all of that, and lighter as the day goes on.
Absolutely.
But you talked about this a bit already. We're all so busy. How can you do that? If you don't have time for breakfast, how can you make sure that you get the right proportions of food into your day?
Okay, so for breakfast you don't have to be a cook. I mean, Greek yogurt is the best thing going today. Get yourself some Greek yogurt, forget it with the fruit flavors because there's too much sugar, add some fruit. Everybody's got an apple or orange or banana. A little bit of that bran buds, put that in there. You got 3 food groups. That's going to keep you going till 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock, handful of nuts and an apple. That's not hard to do. Lunchtime, go out, grab a great salad, make sure there's a protein in there. Get some grain like a quinoa in there. And don't let them dress it for you. Keep the dressing on the side, you add it yourself. You have to take control. You can't be saying, but the restaurant gave me all this. I mean, I say a Caesar salad's better known as a heart attack on a plate. And all you have there is lettuce and a high-fat dressing. But change it, order some salmon, chicken on your salad, and then it's wind down. And if you eat a lot in the middle of the day, you're not hungry at night.
Rose, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Pardon
Jim.
the analogy, but you've given us a smorgasbord of good information.
Good, enjoy it, and enjoy your desserts.
Yes, thanks so much, Rose, for joining us, and best wishes for continued success in all your ventures. Stay with us. We'll be